I'm building KinoViewer.com in public, and this is update number 2. The last update was just 1 week ago. So we'll first have a look into what I have been able to achieve since the last week. So let's look into the app itself. There were a lot of changes actually, because I changed a lot of ideas and concepts. So now if you go onto the shopping list, what you see is an actual list of shopping lists. I did that because before you could select the shopping list basically inside the list itself, but I need the space on top. So I already created a list here. So now you can click on the supermarket, and here what you have now is still the categories, which is, for example, in this case, fruits, meat, toys, and things like that. But now what is new is the concept of stores. So before I was thinking that you basically just order those groups, but then there is another use case that you would need is it's not only that a store has a certain store layout, so you need to order the groups, but then also a store could have or could not have those categories at all. So now what you have is an actual store, and the store defines the visibility of this group, but also the order. So for example, let's say you have a store which is called Aldi, which is very common in Germany at least. Then if you select it, what you see is that this category, toys, is not active in the supermarket because there are no toys to buy there. So it's not hidden, but it will be moved down below this line that says these categories are not active for the selected store. So you could actually buy it still. You can see it. I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's down on the bottom. So when you are shopping, then it does not interfere with your actual things you want to buy. And then, for example, what you also have, there's another store, for example, this one, Rossmann. And here you actually have the toys, but you don't have fruits and all the other things. So, and then, for example, if you have 2 different supermarkets like Aldi, you have fruits, vegetables, the meat, and then you select another one, and the vegetables, for example, come first because the store layout is different. So the sorting will be changed. And what you can do now is also, let's say you are in this store. Of course, you can also add a new store, obviously, but then if you are in the store, you can configure it. So for example, let's say meat would be the first one that would come. Then you would go here, and then you would store it, and you go back to the supermarket, and then as you can see, meat is on top. Another thing that I did is that the selected store is actually persisted, but only in the local storage, because, for example, I just want to have this selected one, obviously not also for, I don't know, someone else who is also looking into the list. I choose local storage. I think that's good enough. It's just basically device dependent. So on your laptop and your mobile phone, the selected one could be different, but I think the use case that you have is, in the end, you will go into a supermarket, and then, if you open the app or navigate around and you come back to the supermarket, you would want to have this one selected again. So yeah, the selected store is stored in the local storage. And then, this is this. So you can still, of course, mark one as purchased. That obviously also works. So another thing that I changed is the way how the categories and the products on the categories work. Also the naming changed a bit. So it's not item groups and items anymore, it's categories and products, because that reflects more reality. And then what I did before is the item groups and the items were basically tied to the list. So if you would create a category, you would create it for this list. This changed now. Now what I have is the idea of global categories. So there are global categories and global products that you can more or less access from anywhere. You still access them via this menu, and you still have the autocomplete and the search engine behind it. So let's say I would add minced, what did I have? Beef, and then now I add minced pork. I don't know, grams, whatever. Then you add this, and then it will be put into the right group already. But those are now global. And if you look into the store settings, what you see is there are other categories here as well. So any category that exists, you would find in the store settings, and then you can activate it, put it up or put it down. So right now, as it is, those are not being shown at all as long as you don't have any items on them or ever had any items on them. Once you had some items on them, they would also pop up here. Though when you, for example, buy this one, the vegetables, once the item is gone, you would also have those categories here. No items left to purchase in those active categories. So these are active categories, but there's no item in it. So these are also ordered, sorted differently. But then if you haven't had one category on this list ever, then it won't show up anywhere. So that's how it is currently working. And with that, there came a change, because now the categories are not tied to the list itself. And the products as well. So since I support like German and English language, they also have to be translated. Also, since they are globally available, I decided that for those categories and products, I will introduce a headless CMS, which I'm working with a lot, Strapi. So what I added now is that you would maintain those in the headless CMS, because in the end it's just content, so to say, but also I want to translate them. And then with the headless CMS, I just get all those things. I can manage them via the UI. And then in the app itself, I access those basically using an API key from this headless CMS. So the headless CMS is not exposed publicly anyway. It's just reachable via the internal network later, but then you also need an API key. So it's basically just a service within the app. Yeah, so what I can do here is I can just add new items. For example, I would be able to create, coconut. So that would then go into the fruits category. Also, all of this I can do via an API. So if I would have some bulk JSON or something, I could just create those also via an API. So I would save that. And now this is not yet available here. So what you would see is it's the products you don't see here, but just the categories. So yeah, you would not see it here, the coconut, because I need to put it into the search index first. So for that, I right now use Melee Search. Insomnia. So I can just index those at the request, which is like a custom API that would index all the categories in the products. It also has like an API key that would need to be passed. And this is actually something that could be automated also. So whenever I change something in Strapi, I could index it automatically. But I think I can also, because I'm doing it basically everything myself, I can also just doing it via Insomnia. That's good enough. And then once I did that, then the coconut will actually appear, and then it's also fruits. I just one by one. And now I have that here as well. Yes, so those are the things that have been done. If we go into our list, so what has been done is actually rewrite of items and item groups in favor of categories and products. Introduced headless CMS as a service. Yeah, and then with that, basically also stores are integrated. They handle the sorting, but also the category availability, so to say. Yeah, so that's pretty much the things that have been done. Yeah, so the next thing that we want to look into is the metrics. So we don't have really don't have metrics, but they reflect some kind of the first goal that I have. The first goal that I would have is to have 10 active test users. Obviously, So right now we have none. So what I added though is like an invitation list. So where I just put some names and emails. I spent like 2 minutes on it. So there are 14 there. So still we haven't any number at least. So I will expand this list. And then from that list, I will send out the invites. Then I can see how many are registered and then also see how many active users we have. So right now, nothing, but at least we have like 14 people on that list. That's where the actual numbers are. And then the question obviously is what is next? So this is the list from last time. A lot of things I haven't done because a lot of things basically just changed. So templates, we won't have templates, but we have like public or global categories and products. Invite family members, that's certainly something that I still have to do. Sorting of groups, so this one is done via the stores. And the shopping mall is something that we need. Optional Aldi Rewe, item groups accordingly, so that is done. Deploy to production, definitely something that we need to do. So I would say these are still the things that I would need to do next. I will quickly have a look into my to-do list in the app. So if we look into the to-dos, I think, I need to retest all the basic stuff like adding items, adding custom categories that changed. That's something that I need to do, and then test all the delete, the basic stuff, the delete, editing and those things. So I will add that here, refactor and test the basic functionalities like edit, list items, create custom categories and products. So those things I need to do. I need to invite family members and then deploy the stuff to production, I think. Another thing that I got, which was interesting, because I was discussing, whenever I start a new project, I kind of talk to everyone about that. So there were also some initial feedback that was interesting. And then also from that, the changes that I made derived. So most of the feedback right now is that it's not really that much of a great idea because there are like tons of shopping lists out there anyways, and no one would ever pay for that, which I definitely understand that type of feedback. And I have to see, so the idea obviously is to create a list that is way better. And then obviously also the value of this is not that high that you would actually pay for it. I totally agree for that, but obviously there will be much more things that will be done, and then over time the value that I create with that app should be high enough to monetize it as well, but we are not there yet. But there were also other interesting feedbacks of things that I could potentially do. So one also was the use case that, for example, whenever you drive by a shop, when you, for example, come back from home and then you want to quickly check what items you want to buy on that store. So that also made me change how the lists work, so that you just have like one large list, but then you can select the store, and then in this scenario you would just pick the store that you're driving by, and then you can quickly see actually what items are on the list. So I think that's also a great use case. And then there were some more ideas, because you have the list and you have the stores. You might do things like understanding how much those things will cost. And then you could also see, for example, if that one store has some coupons or whatever, you would be able to make recommendations on where you would want to buy those things. So you can maybe also have a price tag already on the list before you buy. And then there are a lot of more ideas where, for example, you could potentially share the store layouts, for example. So if I created the store, my Aldi in my hometown, if there would be an address to that Aldi, then if someone else would go and create a store, I could also maybe reuse those categories and sortings for the store layout, which would make it more convenient. But then also what you could do is, once you're done with the shopping, you can make a photo of the receipt, for example, and then you can store it there as well. Maybe we can also then read the prices and all those things. So they are, it's interesting because whenever you start something, a lot of ideas come up. So just getting started is the first point, even though it might sound like it is not the best idea in the world, and it actually isn't, but once you start working on it, more and more stuff comes up and more ideas are coming. So yeah, so there was feedback as well, good ones, bad ones. Stuff has been done, changed a lot, and we also know what will be coming next. Okay, so the next part is a bit on implementation details. So this the programming stuff. So if you are not a programmer, then have a great weekend, because that might not be so interesting for you. But if you are, let's have a look into some specifics of the implementation of the app. And the things that I want to look into this time are those two, because this one I find quite interesting, which is also quite important for the app. And this one for translations is extremely interesting. Huge game changer for me. So mainly search tenant keys. This is very interesting, because if you look into the app and now you have this search, what actually happens is, I mean, obviously you search, you have a search engine behind. So there is a search index that indexes all the products with the categories. And then you can search it. So if you would think about only having like this global categories and products, then that wouldn't be a problem at all. But no, you will be able to create your own custom products and your own custom groups. Or it should be called categories actually. And those should obviously not be on the public search index. But then still, I don't want to create, like a parallel search index or something for each user, which would not be sustainable as well. So those private products and categories also will go into the same search index. No, you need to basically limit the access to that search index, and how you can do it is with tenant tokens. So a tenant token in Maily search is basically you get your search key that you can use against the search database Maily, but then with a tenant token you hard code a filter into this key. So the search key. So in my case, what happens is, so whenever you create a household, that's actually also the reason why the households are so important. Because it would get very complicated if you need to have a household, which was before actually family. So I changed it to household because it's a little bit more general, because not, every household must be a family. So it's household now. But if you cannot just have one search key per person, that would also be complicated, because if you create categories and item stuff, they will be shared basically in a household. So what you have is a key for a household, so to say, that is shared by all members. And then with that key, you have access to the categories and items for that household. And then how you would do it is basically you generate the tenant token, that's the search key, and this adds the filter. That household ID is either your household ID or it is null. And with that, you will be able to access the global ones where the household ID actually is null, and then your local ones where the household ID is your household ID. But you will not be able to access anything from a different household. And then this search key is just stored in the database for the household, and then it will be used by every member of that household. So that's the Maily search stuff, which I think is pretty interesting, and allows me to do those things. And then another thing that is really interesting, it's a plugin for VS Code that I was made aware of because I am translating the app already. And it's very tedious sometimes if you want to do this in the messages. So right now it's just static JSON files where the translations live. So, and they are a bit like categorized by app, homepage, purchase, onboarding, whatever. And then you would have onboarding, or purchase, and then add new purchase list, or I don't know, something like edit purchase list. And if you maintain that in the JSON files, you would always need to go there, and then you would need to make sure that, you know, you have the same keys in both lists, and so on and so on. So now the search, the plugin is called, what is it called? I18N LI. And then what it does is, if you have some translation function, which in most cases is like a T function. So for me, let's see if I have one here. So there's a T function. And now if I have some translations, for example, this one, as you can see already, it shows the translated version, like delete item. If you click it, you see the key purchase delete item. And now you see on hover, you see the plugin working. And what you can do here now is you can already edit it directly here. And then if you would change it, then as you can see, it changed it already. And then it does change it also in the files. So delete item 2. Item 2. Yeah, as you can see, it changed it directly into the file. So I basically never need to go back to the where was it? Here. I don't need to go back to the JSON files anymore. Actually, I can always do it directly here, which is super convenient. And then I also can do it for this, for the German language or for the other language. And then there are some more things that you can do. So you can jump to the place. But then also what you can do is, for example, yeah, see it here, you know, and then you can go through, you can go through the translations in that file. And then I guess you can also directly change those here. Yeah, so that's the plugin that I was using, or I started using, which is super convenient for translating anything. So that was update number 2 on the app. So we are not live yet, but we will get there eventually. And I hope you got something out of this. And we will continue this journey building a public key in vivo.com, and see you next time. Cheers.